And you know what? I don't regret having dogs.
Oh, I wish I could have a dog.
He's a maniac, though. He's going to be really tough to train.
Yeah.
He gets in Boyd's face just like thinks he's 300 pounds or something. All right,
my mother sends videos of the same thing. Her new little puppy jumping all over Oliver, the older one.
Yes,
and it is very, very funny.
It is.
It is funny when they eventually like get mad and like kind of like hold their ground, and the puppy doesn't know what to do.
Yes,
it's like, oh, I think I made a mistake here.
Yep, they turn around, show their butt. It's
yeah.
Pretty much what I do. From Mike Swanger, without naming names, what's the worst example of a player sucking up to the coach? Or a coach to his GM? I mean, the thing is, to a certain extent, everybody does it because you don't want to tick off your boss. But the question is, did somebody really cross a line?
No, not that I remember off the top of my head.
From Robert Duffy, was Greenway expected to be more dominant by now?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he was we're talking about a former, what was he, second round pick, 50th overall. You wish he'd be a little more physical, but in college I wouldn't say he had a dominant college career. He had a pretty good Olympics last year with Ryan Donato as his line mate as well. And I would say that he's been a bit of a disappointment, but you know what? I still think that when you see him play the way that he did in the first period the other night, it shows you, it gives you a glimpse of what type of player he has the ability to be. What I love that he does that he hasn't done a lot of at all this year is kind of circle the middle of the slot, curl up and just whip a shot. We saw him score a couple of his goals that way last year. I wish he'd do that more often. He's just got to be a more dominant player. I will say this is a hard team to step into. We've seen it for years. Is that this team? He just, it's because they have guys that are on long-term contracts. It's hard for guys to get ice time. So Greenway now is in the Nino spot where he's on the fourth line left wing because of the way that the lines are always constructed. When you have Zucker and Parisi that are going to get ice time in front of you, and then you have Foligno as a shutdown winger in front of you, and you don't like putting Greenway on right wing, there's only so many spots for them. And we see that fourth line right now. Tonight is going to be pretty much an all-skilled line with Greenway, Rask, and Donato, with Fiala actually sitting in the press box.
Yeah, good question, by the way. Trevor Voss, what are the chances Koivu gets re-signed after this year?
If you ask me right now, I doubt it, because I do think there just comes a point where you just got to get younger. And you've got to now give guys the ability to move in. But like anything, it really has to do with what Bill Guerin thinks is coming behind him. At center, there's not a lot coming behind him. So your question is, if we don't have Mikko here, where are we? And when I say we, I'm trying to paraphrase a quote from Bill Guerin.
Sure.
Where are we getting our centers? Obviously Eric Stahl's got another year. Eriksson Ek is here. But still, can they win next year and have somebody play the roles that Mikko does if Mikko isn't here? So a lot of it's going to depend on whether or not he thinks he can acquire a center elsewhere, because again, we know there's no kids coming. And the other thing is, does he think there's a chance of maybe going and getting a free agent, whether that's Eric Haller or Mikhail Granlund, two people the Wild are familiar with, or somebody else on the open market in a market that there's not a lot of centers out there. So, I mean, if you ask me right now, I don't think so. But if Mikko plays well all year long, and they get to the trade deadline and they decide also they're not moving him, or Mikko's not willing to move somewhere, or they decide they don't want to trade Mikko because they're in a playoff spot at that point or think they're going to make the playoffs, then a lot of it's going to have to come in that off-season part, the window there between the end of the regular season and the beginning of the draft or free agency, and deciding if they think they can replace Mikko. If they don't think they can replace Mikko and Mikko is still a functional player, there's always that chance if Mikko is willing to take a 1-year deal at a quality price that you make the move.
We know that Mikko seems to like living here and playing here. Do you think he likes his team enough to want to stick around another year, or is there anything sour about his role in the team or the team itself?
I don't want to put words in my mouth. Knowing Mikko the way that I do, though, I do think that it will be very hard for him at the trade deadline, even if he thinks he's going to a team that could win a cup, to waive his no move. I think that he really kind of wants to go deep down with that pride of being playing his entire career in one spot. But Mikko also wants to win, so maybe he would change his mind there. A lot of it's going to depend on circumstance and things like that. So, and how his body is feeling and all that stuff.
Sure. Go to champlininsurance.com or just Google Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund, and check out Tony's services, now offering financial services as well as any kind of insurance you would want. Michael and I both take advantage of his insurance. So check out Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund.
Hi, Talk North listeners. I wanted to let you all know about State Farm's new program called Quotes for Good. We partner with local nonprofits to raise money for great causes. For the Russo-Souhan Show, I'll be donating $16 to the Jason and Carly Zucker Give 16 campaign that benefits the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital. When you call in, be sure to mention the show so that we can track the donations. You can reach us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at champlininsurance.com.
From Nick Pierce, has Stalock earned, and by the way, we're recording this about 1 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon before a couple of games. From Nick Pierce, has Stalock earned more playing time with his performance this year, or will the Wild keep riding Dubnyk and hope he can turn it around?
I mean, I think that he probably deserves to have more of the ability to play. A lot of it still will always depend on schedule. But look, there's no doubt that Doobie's had a tough start to the season. And Alex has played really well so far. So as the Wild, look, Bruce wants to win, and if Alex is going to give him that better option, I think that he will go that. I think it's too early to just say, create a goalie controversy when there isn't one. A lot of it will be on schedule, and that's when we're going to start to know. I mean, the one thing about the Wild coming up here in the month of November, if I am remembering correctly, is even though they are road heavy in the month of November, again, just like the month of October, there's not a lot of back-to-backs, if any. If I remember, they play, obviously, so the Wild play in St. Louis tomorrow. So Dubnyk will obviously start that one. But I'm pretty sure the only one I can think of off the top of my head, I'm trying to find a schedule here, is in November is the Wild play back-to-back games at Jersey and the Rangers. But, yeah, here's the schedule. So the Wild have back-to-back games at Rangers, at New Jersey, right after Thanksgiving. And then even in the month of December, they don't have any back-to-backs. So that's when we're going to start to know if all of a sudden Dubnyk starts to get Stalock starts to get spot started more. That's when we're going to start to know whether or not Bruce has much more faith in Stalock than Doobie. It's crazy, actually, the lack of back-to-backs this year. So the Wild, after the Rangers, or after Dallas at St. Louis, they have one back-to-back in the next. Oh, they do have one in December at Philly, or home against Philly at Chicago. But they only have one in the month of December, and they have none in the month of January. And then they have a smattering in the second half of the season in February and March. But it's pretty incredible that the Wild don't have a lot of back-to-backs really the first half of the season.
That is interesting. From the Dog Father, seeing the way the lineup has changed over the first 10 games, what line combo has been your favorite? Or the most underwhelming, and what line combo hasn't been tried that you like to see?
Well, I mean, look, I did like Koivu with Parisi and Zucker. To me, it's whatever line Foligno and Hartman are on seem to go. The other night, I thought Koivu in the middle there was really good with them. But I think it's something to say. I think it's something to be said for the way that Foligno and Hartman have played this year. Hartman's been really, really good, other than the, for lack of a better term, brain cramp that he had in Toronto when he took down Muzzin on the Donato breakaway. That was a bad play, but for the most part, he's been really, really good. And Foligno's been awesome. So, the other pair that's been really good for the Wild as a tandem is Soucy and Hunt. It's made it almost impossible for Boudreau to play Sealer. Right now, Soucy and Hunt, if you look at the analytics, they give up very few chances against, or quality chances against.
I mean, Hunt was just a really good acquisition.
Yeah, no, Hunt was a great acquisition. So give credit where credit was due with Fenton there, and he's just a heck of a person too. So it's just a good guy to have in that locker room. And as I joked in a story the other day, he's picked up the Nate Prosser role of being a good guy really well. He's just one of those people. It's impossible to leave Brad Hunt's stall after shooting the breeze with him and not be in a little better mood than you were about 5 minutes before.
Cool. So remember our meal deals on this network. You have Bite Squad, promo code TalkNorth gets your first delivery fee waived. And then check bitesquad.com for whatever deal is in your area. They have just promotion after promotion rolling through. So they'll probably end up with a better deal than even our promo code will ever get you. And if you upload the Bite Squad app, put your information into it, it makes ordering anywhere you are, anytime you want, very easy. And remember, November 13th and 20th at Tin Shed and Savage, tinshedmn.com. Check there. You'll always get information about our live shows. You'll also find out about coupons, happy hours, specials. They're buy one free, get one free pizzas. There's always a good deal to be had, and there are just a lot of big screen TVs, pinball, video games, kids stuff. It's just a very family friendly place, fun friendly place. tinshedmn.com. From Grant Becker, how should Wild fans feel about Spurgeon and Dumba's deals in the light of the Yossi contract?
Well, look, I love Yossi. So if the meaning of that question is that you're getting a better bang for your buck with Spurgeon and Dumba, I get it. In the $6 million range for Dumba and 7 point something for Spurge, but Yossi at $9 million is a heck of a deal. And I made some comment on Twitter to Giles that intelligent Preds fans would start cheering Suter rather than booing him every time. If Brian Suter had signed that contract with the Nashville Predators, there's so much history in the last 6 years that could not happen. There was so much stuff that David Poile would not been able to do in terms of affording players just because of that Suter deal, which is just why, to me, it's like, they dodged a bullet. And so, Preds fans should be appreciative of the fact that he left there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, to that point of the question, I think the Wild got to have real quality prices there for both Spurgeon and Dumba. And I remember when Dumba signed, people were freaking out. But I think that what Shep Harder, who did that deal, figured out right away is where this marketplace was going for defensemen. It didn't take a lot to figure that out when you look at the fact of how many great defensemen were going to be up in the year after Dumba signed his new deal, and then all these first unrestricted free agent to-bes, the Petrangelos and the Yossis and the Barrys and the Brodies and obviously the Spurgeons and all that thing. So I think that Shep tried to get in front of Dumba, and he did a really good job getting that deal at $6 million because he saw where the market was going.
I mean, that's the thing in sports. The numbers always just get bigger, and more TV money's rolling in. I mean, I remember when Kirby Puckett was briefly made the highest paid player in baseball. I think it was for $6 million a year. And that was coming after he won 2 World Series and was still in his prime. $6 million a year. Now they're paying people, $30 million a year, $40 million a year. I mean, it's so if the player's good, you shouldn't worry too much about setting a precedent because that precedent's going to be broken anyway.
Yeah. And that there are some Wild fans that would debate whether or not, even though they might feel that Spurgeon and Dumba are worth that price, whether or not the Wild should have used them to parlay it into a top center or a scorer or things like that. That's a great debate to have. I think Paul Fenton did talk to Toronto about Dumba specifically, and even Niederreiter in a deal for Nylander, and it didn't happen. And so what happens is eventually you get these guys signed at prices that are pretty expensive that eventually affect other things that happen within the organization and things you can or cannot do. And that's what I meant with the Suter thing is that, all these Preds fans that are upset because they feel that Suter allegedly lied to them and wanted to stay there. They should be happy that he left because it's allowed Nashville to do a bunch of stuff that they wouldn't have been able to do with Ryan there. We're seeing that in Minnesota. When you have Parisi and Suter locked in at 7.5 for this many years, it precludes you from doing other things. And, Nashville is a cup contender that went to the cup finals 2 years ago. So, I think Preds fans should be happy.
From Paul Meyer, Michael,
not to mention, by the way, that Suter leaving allowed Yossi to develop.
Right.
Where if we're also seeing in Minnesota, it's much harder for guys to develop and get quality ice time when you have veterans locked into positions forever. Right.
Absolutely. From Paul Meyer, what has happened to Zucker's hands? He gets 1 or 2 breakaways a game and a few open looks, cannot score anymore.
I don't know if anything's happened to his hands. I don't think he's ever been a natural goal scorer. He's somebody that that is an offensive minded player with a ton of speed. But I don't think anybody